there is something we haven't spoken about at all in this episode, which we should probably talk about. There's that elephant in the room, which is called the corona, the cerveza sickness, that is going on. And it is devastating not only the world, but since this is a film show, we're going to talk about how it's devastating our industry. And I'd love to hear your point of view, where you think things are going, how things are changing and will change and will not go back to the way they were. There is a lot of stuff happening. This is a once in a generation, once in a lifetime event. This has never happened in the history of the world in the way it is happening now. And our industry has never dealt with, any industry hasn't dealt with this, but let alone our industry has never dealt with anything like this. I mean, I can't fathom a summer without a blockbuster summer.
I know.
Like I can't, because I'm not going to the movies this summer. I don't care if Dr. Fauci shows up and says we're good. We're good. Yeah. We've got the vaccine.
Screw that.
Yeah, like he says, we're good. We've got the drugs to take care of this. If you get it, it's just kind of like getting a sniffle. You're good. You're solid. Don't worry. Everyone go back outside. If Dr. Fauci said that, which he won't, but if he would say that, I still would not. It's going to take me a while before I shake a hand again, or go into a public place. Let alone
I got a big TV.
Or an enclosed movie theater. So that's the first question, man. As far as how the business is, the theatrical experience. You and I grew up on the theatrical experience. You're a bit younger than me, but we both remember video stores. And we both remember. I remember 1989 Batman, like it was yesterday. Like
McDonald's cups.
Oh
my God.
All of that, dude. I still have the cards. I have it from Batman and Batman. I still have them somewhere in my, I can't,
that's amazing.
I have them all like in the card thing, all organized and stuff with the wrappers. And stuff. But like, I remember that excitement of, there wasn't like VHSs were around, obviously, and video stores were around, but that theatrical thing, which I don't see it as much anymore, maybe because I'm older.
Right.
But even when Avengers showed up, which I obviously went to go see Avengers in the theater, Endgame, there's so much competition for our eyeballs now. There's so much more to watch.
Yeah.
But the theatrical experience is kind of a holdover from the past, and it should be a movement of the future. I think there'll always be some sort of theatrical experience, but I don't. So. There always will be. There always will be the IMAX experience. AMC theaters, when you go in there, like those couch things that they got going on now, like they've had to take their game up. But what do you like? I just read that AMC is probably going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Like what? How do you see this going?
Yeah.
Man?
I just have a lot of questions. It's like, is this something where, you're going to have a repeat of like 1918, 1919, where you saw studios step into the theatrical system, or who knows? I don't know. I think for sure, it seems to me that lower end theaters are going to have a real hard time surviving this one. And I think the theatrical experience will exist because I think people want to get out of their house. Obviously, we're seeing that pretty heavily, that people are going stir crazy. And then just the experience of seeing a movie there's just a whole different level. You can't pause it. There's a different level of reverence and like respect and that communal experience that I don't think will ever go away. I think that'll always be there one way or another, but it definitely seems like it's changing quite a bit. And I've talked to a few people that are, know way more than I did, and then ended up consulting with a few companies, which obviously I can't say about, but consulted with because they're looking at other avenues because of the lay of the land.
Yeah. And
the companies that I was talking to before, it was kind of blowing my mind because it's like, man, what does this mean if you're talking to me? Because, they're talking to guys like us because we're in this space. We're in the YouTube space. We're in the streaming space. We understand that market, the lower indie market. And so they're starting to turn, their gaze in that direction of what could we do to add another leg in that area, because this thing is sort of, and that's kind of like, man, what does that mean? And I don't have an answer.
If they're talking to us, we're in trouble.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. exactly. So it's like, I don't know what that means, you know, and I don't have an answer for it. I just know that that thought process and those questions are being asked, and that's like, man. And pretty much everybody I talk to says the same thing. Like, I'm not 100% sure. We're kind of taking it one day at a time, and we'll see what happens. But everybody, you know, keeps saying things are fundamentally going to be changed, but then no one's following up with what that change is exactly. And so I think no one really knows. You know, the optimist in me, and I just, you know, it's just what I think. I think we're going to get back to great stories. I think we're going to get back to great storytellers telling those great stories. You know, entertainment and the arts are so interwoven with our daily life and so important to us as just. So I mean, that's that. But like, at what from what platform will be the main, you know, source? Like, you know, you see like Trolls 2 came out today, straight to streaming. That was going to be, you know, that was going to be a big moneymaker in theaters for sure. And, you know, for a second I was reading that they were considering sending Wonder Woman straight to streaming, and then they decided to push it.
They might though. They still might, because there's only
maybe they'll change their mind.
How long are you going to push this stuff? Like, everyone's being pushed. Everything's it's going to Christmas and to the winter holiday.
And then you're going to have like 100 big blockbusters for Christmas. Like, that's not going to be a thing.
Well, not only that, but you know, there is a very good possibility that this thing comes back in the winter.
Right. That and there's another wave of it.
There's another wave of it. Yeah. So, and even if everything's okay, how many people are going to the theater?
Yeah.
Like, how many people are really going to go to the movie theater? Like personally, my love-hate relationship with movie theaters has happened since I was a teenager, where I've always said they've had a combative relationship with their customer. They charge for food and popcorn and stuff like you're in an airport. Like, we don't know what a Coke cost in the real world. Like, there's these inflated costs there. And then for a long time, the experience wasn't particularly that great unless you spent money at a higher end theater. Like, now, like AMC figured out that like we better put some money in. So now the seats are good. The floors aren't sticky. The floors aren't sticky. If people
God, you remember the dollar theaters, dude?
Oh, I love the dollar theaters.
But they were so gross.
They were nasty. They were so.
Like, have you ever cleaned this ever?
I mean, it was just like layers of like soda pop on the floor, and it was just it's horrible.
Back in the day when we used to leave our house and go places,
yes.
Alamo Draft House was my thing. Like, that's where me and my wife went. Like, once a week we'd have a date night to Alamo Draft House because it also no phones, no talking. Like, when you go
I love those ads. I love those ads. I love those ads.
And then somebody picks up their phone in front of you and they're on Facebook and you're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, it's one thing if you're like a parent and you're like just checking real quick and it goes away. All right, I have no problem with that. But like, you're literally scrolling Facebook, like, everyone else paid to be here too, bro. Like, go outside.
So I've always felt that they've had a combative relationship with their customer base, and now I feel that it's kind of biting them in the ass, because now the second there's another opportunity, or the second there's something else, they're like, you know what? I really kind of don't want to go, and now I have an excuse not to go because I don't want to get sick. That's going to be a difficult thing mentally to kind of break through the customer. Like, the customer is going to have to feel really comfortable to be in an enclosed space, and that goes for concerts, that goes for huge events. This is going to be, it's going to hit and film festivals, like South by, you know, and and everything is happening with that. Cannes is holding in there, but you know, that's gonna,
we'll see.
I can't see that happening.
It's just so crazy and interesting to me, because it all just is so unprecedented that there's really no, like, because I mean, you can look all the way back to 1918, 100 years ago. Like, what is that really going to tell? You know what I mean? Like,
they didn't even know what they had no idea what bacteria was. They didn't know that washing your hands was a thing.
Yeah, and there was no home entertainment. That wasn't a thing. Now we have all these streaming services. We got Netflix. You know, have you seen the trailer for that new Chris Hemsworth movie that's going straight to Netflix? It looks like $100 million.
Oh, I heard it. Yeah, who is it? Isn't that with the Russo brothers?
Russo brother. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was going to. That's going to the Netflix. That's going to Netflix.
Going to Netflix, and they produced it. And I think Joe Russo maybe wrote it. One of the Russo brothers wrote it, maybe. But it looks badass. But it looks like this massive. It is this massive tentpole project, and it's just going to, you know, Scorsese's film went straight to net. So it's a different world. So that kind of throws, you know, a wrench into the works too of trying to predict what might be the outcome of this situation. So it's like, it's just a lot of questions from me. The only thing I land on is, we're going to keep telling great stories.
Yeah.
I don't know what the medium for delivery of those stories are going to be as far as like the main, like, will theaters start to take a much bigger backseat and be less of a thing? For the first time ever, I would say maybe, but are they going to go away? I would say no way. But who knows? Who freaking knows? This thing is so crazy.
I mean, look, remember when home video wasn't a thing? I remember going to my first video store when I was in 84. It was in New York. And I went to my first video store when we rented Flashdance. It's fucking old I am. We rented Flashdance and we watched it on the top loaded. It was a top loaded VHS.
I remember.
It was a top loaded tank of a VHS, and we watched it. And I remember walking into a video store, and I remember, like, I worked in a video store when I was in high school, so I worked there for like 4 or 5 years, and I remember that was like, home video wasn't a thing. Like, no one ever thought that was going to take over. No one ever thought that DVDs were going to do the thing. No one ever thought that streaming was going to be a thing. And now we're saying no one ever thought that movie theaters weren't going to be a thing. And if they aren't, and if you look at the current model of business, let's talk a little bit about money here. In the current business model, in order to justify a $200+ million tentpole, there has to be a theatrical revenue stream to justify it. You can't make Avengers for Disney Plus. You might be able to get away with it now.
Yeah.
Right now you can't.
So.
But, you can do it now because they still only have 20 million subscribers. But when you hit critical mass in the US, let's say 200 million people sign up for Disney Plus, and that's it. Yeah. Like, there's nobody else is going to sign up for it. Now you're spending 200 million to keep what you have, not to make more. So there's going to be a moment where that money has to drop. And so it makes sense to keep that revenue stream. You see what I'm saying? And also before, the $200 million movie was completely reliant on the U.S. box office, which now it's completely reliant on the international box office. Which now, like, when China shut down, everyone said, "Oh, what happened? What happened?" And then now, Europe just shut down. Oh, shoot! And then everything just shut down. So if those revenue streams aren't there, is there future for as many tent poles as we're getting?
Yeah, that is a good question. That is a very good question. I think the rest of this year is gonna, like, at least present possible outcomes. Because I think we're gonna be really, like, heading in a direction for the next few years. I don't think we're really gonna land on this is the outcome of this happening for another 2 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. But I think, toward the end of this year, I think we'll finally have an indication, like, we'll have a mile marker to sort of be like, okay, here's what this looks like. It's where it can be predictive at that point. But, like, right now, at least for me, man, I don't know. But I'm curious and hopeful, and my fingers are crossed, because I certainly don't want theaters to go away.
I don't either. I think I
love that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. But the one thing also, I feel that there is going to be some casualties in the business, meaning our companies. Companies are gonna go down, and studios are gonna be either go down or get acquired. Big studios that we know of and have grown up with. Look, Fox just got bought, for God's sakes, by Disney. Yeah. So if Fox could get bought, there's 4 or 5 other studios that were lower on the totem pole that could easily be purchased by Apple, Google, Facebook, any of those big guys who have those guns. It's the landscape is going to change in such a way that nobody really knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
I think it's most definitely going to accelerate the acceptance of and the draw to streaming. We're already headed there, but obviously that's just going to accelerate. Like the acceptance and adoption of it from some of the major studios and players, I think is going to happen far quicker than it was going to. But that's just kind of obvious, because what other option is there? It's don't, or there's this.
And I'm curious about this whole $20. I call it premium TVOD that they have. Like Trolls came out today at $20.
Yeah.
Like I want to see numbers. How many people are paying $20? I feel that's a fair number for a family.
But that's what they charge anyway. Like it's usually about $19.99 when a brand new movie comes to iTunes. So it's not even an inflated cost.
But who's buying? Yeah. Who's buying movies nowadays? That's the other thing. Like I know I've seen TVOD numbers. No, but you come from a different generation though. Yeah, you come from a moment
I buy it for the special features. If I could rent the special features, I totally would.
But you're an anomaly. Like you're a very small market. Like you're a filmmaker. Very true. You're a filmmaker, and you also come from a generation where we were used to purchasing these things, because that's the only way. So we had physical media libraries and DVDs and things like that. But there's a generation that expects all this for free, or expects it as part of their subscription model,
or just feels free because their parents pay for this thing and they never have that experience of it.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see also how much longer. I'm really curious.
Is it that to rent? Like what does it cost to rent Trolls
for a brand new? Like if you were gonna rent? No. It's $20 period. It's $20.
Oh, to rent it.
Yeah. It's not. You're not buying it for $20. It's renting it for $20 because it's premium. Okay. It's like going to the theater.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's not available.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. It's not. So you're paying a rental now. If you're gonna go out to the theater and you want a first run movie, and you have a couple and you've got kids, that's an $80-$90. If you get popcorn and stuff, it's $80-$90, $100 to go out to the movies. And if you got a full family or you're going out with friends, it could easily, go past 3 figures. So $20 for home, and you have a nice system at home, it's not outrageous. But I'm used to paying something else in this environment.
Exactly. And the psychology of it,
I
think, is what you're saying is because also a ticket costs me, let's say, $15.
Right.
But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is $20 kids movie. Are you kidding me? When really, like you said, in actuality, I'm buying my ticket, my wife's ticket, my kid's ticket. Then we're getting popcorn, and it inflates to like this $80 affair. But it's like $20 for a cartoon just to rent it. That's out because of the psychology of what you said in this space.
So I'm really curious on what those numbers are going to be like, because they have released a bunch of them already, and some they have no other way to make any money with them.
Oh man. I meant the numbers, because they don't really. The streaming numbers are always pretty confusing. They're not as cut and dry as box office numbers.
Right, and this is not a part. This is not a thing. Like premium TVOD number this weekend box office. Yeah. That's not a thing.
TVOD.
So I'm curious to see what those numbers really are, and if they're making. I know they're not making. I know Trolls is not going to make $20 million, $30 million. Yeah. I just don't see that in this.
I've never looked much into streaming numbers. Is there somewhere that posts those numbers like you do?
There is and there isn't. I have some back end friends who work at some of these places that shown me numbers.
I'll have to get behind the scenes like that.
But I would see some of these numbers. And I'd be like, oh, so that tentpole movie made $50,000 this week. Oh, okay. Like in TVOD, I'm like, oh, right. I mean, I personally think TVOD is dying a slow and miserable death because no one's renting. It's very difficult to rent or purchase. Most people are waiting for Netflix, waiting for it to be part of their subscription model. It's just like, they're like, there's just so much good stuff to watch. I don't need to go out unless it's if it's Avengers. Like I'd pay $20 to see Avengers. I would rather see it in the theater, but I would pay $20 for the next Marvel movie. I'd probably pay $20 for Black Widow. I might pay $20 for Wonder Woman. These big, extravaganza kind of films, spectacle films. I might do that, and that's a big might do that. But I mean, Onward, the Pixar movie, it was 1 week in premium TVOD, a week in rentals. Like normal, and then it's in freaking Disney Plus. Like 2 weeks later, I was like,
"Yep,
what's going on? Like,
explain."
I don't understand. So the business, it's like we are in an upside down, bizarro world right now. I don't think that I've been saying this for a while, that the money that's being spent in streaming is a bubble. Like you can't keep that spending just buying catalogs. buying libraries, $100 million for this Friends thing, and another 150 for all the South Parks and all this stuff. And they're just buying content because it's kind of like a space race, if you will, a streaming race, or streaming wars, as they call it.
Streaming wars, yeah.
Right. Yeah, to try to bring everybody in. But I think a lot of that is based on future projections of growth. But if those future projections of growth are not there or slowed because of what we're doing, how much Netflix is so in the hole? Netflix is billions in the hole, and they're leveraged to the tilt because they're just trying to grab market share. They're trying to grab market share, and I don't know. I don't know where it's gonna go, dude. I mean, it's a weird world we live in.
Yeah, same here, man. I have no solid predictions. I just have optimism, hope toward story, and that's about it. And then it's like, well, I guess we'll see. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Have you seen any noticeable jumps in your numbers from traffic and stuff since the Corona thing? Like more people finding you?
Our numbers have gone up quite a bit. However, our other show hasn't. Under my company, Triune Films, we also have another show called Variant, which is about comic books. But that has pretty much stayed even keel. And I've noticed other channels didn't. I wasn't really seeing a boost there either. So it's probably more along the lines of the content we're putting out that people were just attaching to because we're doing the contest of we're all stuck at home. Let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. So it seems to be people are just responding to that more. Maybe I don't really know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see in the months ahead as we do different content if it goes back to normal or if it we'll see, because it all kind of hit at the same time. Like there's been a little bit of a slowdown in Film Riot as some behind the scenes stuff was worked on. Mm-hmm. So that's been a little more slow goings, and just as of a few weeks ago, we started ramping back up, and this hit. So I don't really know which thing is doing that, because there's three things happening at once, and maybe it's all of the above that's doing that. So I can't really tell, because everything else other than that seems to be no difference.